Nobody's gonna be.
I have the official update on the episode number. It's episode 16, so it's good to be back. Week 11 in the books. Right off the top, I think we should just talk about the elimination pool because we always forget it every single week. Last week I went safe and I picked the Eagles and the Cowboys. They both won. Obviously, the Eagles game was a little bit of a sweat. We'll talk about that literally right after this, but my next two this week are going to be the Steelers and the Buccaneers.
Okay. Yeah, I went 0-2. I picked the Chargers and the Cardinals. I was hesitant on the Cardinals, but I thought that the Chargers would be able to at least win that game against the Packers. And what do you know? The curse of Brandon Staley is stronger than ever. So I went 0-2. With that being said, I will take I'm going to take the Patriots against the Giants and the Browns against the Broncos.
I like that. I don't like that last one, but I respect it.
All right, I got Pats, Browns. You had the Bucks and who?
The Steelers.
All right. May the best man win.
Yeah, definitely I will. But anyway, right into it. Last night we had an epic game. It was good. Sorry, Tifu's live right now, so I'm going to be peeking over every couple minutes. The guy's back to streaming. Last night we had a great game. I mean, you couldn't really ask for much more. It was pouring down rain at first, and you could tell it was just gonna be one of those games that it was gonna be like a chess match almost in a way. The Chiefs came out super hot. Put up hung 17, went up 17-7 on the Eagles like quick, and I think probably everybody deep down was kind of like, well, fuck, like that doesn't look too good to me. And then obviously the second half came along, some things happened, and I'm going to say this stat and then you can kind of take it. The Chiefs haven't scored a second half touchdown since October 22nd. And they're averaging the lowest points per game in the second half of any team this season. Eagles obviously shut them out, maybe got bailed out with a big drop pass, but that's a part of the game as well. So what's your take on the game this week?
Yeah, obviously happy to win that one. Anytime that you can go in to Arrowhead and get a dub is a great sign. I was on the edge of my seat that entire game. Admittedly, I did not feel great when the Eagles turned the ball over and the Chiefs went down and kicked a field goal like right before the half. But I mean, hell of a job in the second half by that defense and Coach Desai. I mean, yes, there was some plays that had to bounce the Eagles' way, but that's part of the game. It's so weird hearing that the Chiefs are the worst second half team in the NFL, especially because it feels like Andy Reid is like one of those coaches that is very good at making adjustments on the fly. And it's just not happening for him this year at this point. I mean, that could easily change, but it's really weird to hear that.
Well, something that was, I think, a little bit underplayed, understated, undervalued is Bieniemy obviously left in the offseason. Again, pretty understated. Like, I don't really hear too many people talking about it literally at all this season. And quite frankly, they've really struggled on the offensive side of the ball. But I've said this for weeks now, and the Chiefs have gone out and continued to win. One issue automatically, I think, is probably I don't think Travis Kelce gives a single fuck about football anymore. He's everywhere but Kansas City. Like, even like on game week, like 3 weeks ago against the Broncos, he was like at a World Series game in like Texas. Then he was like at a Sixers game like this week when they're like supposed to be in Kansas City, like on like a Tuesday. And it's just kind of like he seems to be like everywhere but focused on football. Another thing is he like traveled overseas during their bye week. Um, he came out and I think he looked pretty bad. A article came out right before the game that pretty much said that like he's contemplating retirement completely. Like he just doesn't when that's your best offensive weapon and supposed to be your most reliable, and all of this stuff's kind of happening with him. I wouldn't really feel too great about that if I was the Chiefs. On top of it, you trade away a second round pick for Kadarius Toney, and like last night they used him in a positive manner, I feel like, and he made some plays, but other than that, they like don't really involve him in the offense too much. And then the rest of their like I don't think Pacheco's a very good running back. I've said that for a very long time. Their wide receivers are extremely underwhelming, and I just think all of that's going to start catching up to them, especially at this point in the season.
Yeah. So a couple things. I'm on board with you. It doesn't really seem like Travis Kelce really cares that much. I mean, what do we know though? That's just like our outside perspective. To be fair, that offense has nobody else that you really should be worried about besides him. So coming into the week, the game plan had to have been make somebody else in that receiving room beat you. And it didn't happen
But you don't
because
think that's every team's
yeah,
plan when they go into it?
I think teams have done a good job of doing that this year.
Yeah.
Because of how bad those wide receivers are. I mean, I'm pretty sure they lead the league in drop passes.
I'm not sure about that one, but probably.
They have so many drops, but they have 3 wide receiver threes playing right now.
Yeah.
I think that this offense not being good is a combo of Bieniemy and the fact that the Chiefs didn't want to spend any money on even getting a wide receiver 2 to play wide receiver 1 rather than the 4 guys that they have to put out there right now. I was obviously thankful that the Eagles could pull that off and pretty much shut down Kelce. I mean, he had a touchdown, but I mean, when you get to the red zone, it's going to be tough to really stop him anyways. I have a couple things about Kadarius Toney. He had his like a couple good plays on offense, but honestly, anytime they gave him the ball out of the backfield, I was thankful that it was him over Pacheco because Pacheco was running all over them. I also think that Kadarius Toney is a good punt returner, but that last punt that the Eagles had, he thought that he was Devin Hester, and instead of just letting that ball go into the end zone and starting at the 20-yard line, 25, he caught it and got tackled right away at like the 7.
Yeah, I think probably like a lot plays into that from like a special teams perspective where you're returning the ball well the entire game. Like special teams coach is probably just going to give you the go ahead on taking that punt away off.
I get that, but the Eagles were flying down there and were right there like the whole night. They were just missing some tackles, and I think it was just a matter of time before they eventually landed one, and it just so happened to be at like the best time for the Eagles, worst time for the Chiefs.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sitting here saying Kadarius Toney is Deebo Samuel, but
I know that.
I think that when you go and you trade a key pick for somebody, like even if he's struggling, like he struggled the first game of the season, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's fine. But no matter what, you have to force that to work at some point. And it seems like you said, you were happy when they did that. I get your perspective, but it was also a nice change of pace where if he did make a play, which he made like 2 plays out of the backfield last night, where I was like, you know what, maybe they should like turn to that maybe a little bit more than what they've have. It's just about being like more creative on offense. I just think they're extremely predictable. I don't think that I think that the weapons, like, I can acknowledge it, but I think that, like, when it comes down to it, like, Mahomes and the offensive play caller, like, what they do on a down to down basis is just extremely predictable. And I think that's been their biggest downfall in this entire thing. So I think that they have a lot of work to do, obviously. I think that they'll be in the playoffs, but the Chiefs just aren't a team this year that like really like stick out to me as like one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a game that Justin Watson has like 9 targets,
I
I
think he finished
mean,
with 12.
yeah, it's something crazy. I mean, I'll take that all day long because that's not a guy that I'm even remotely worried about beating me in a football game. So, so be
Or if
it.
he does, you live
They
with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those scenarios where if a guy goes off that you're not really worried about, hey, you hang your hat to him. But they did have a lot of drops, and I think that's just going to continue to happen because those guys just aren't good.
And a key Kelsey fumble as well, and a key Kelsey drop.
Yeah,
Um, so
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
it's
Right
not
on that
just
third down and short.
yeah, it's not just the guys who we're underwhelmed with. It's also the best of the best where we look at him to be an elite performer on a week to week basis. And like I said, I just think he's been extremely underwhelming this year.
Yeah, I believe it was Roby, the slot corner, that forced that fumble. I mean, that's a great play in the
Yeah.
red zone. I mean, you also can't turn the ball over twice in the red zone and expect to win. Um, that puts you in a tough spot.
From the Eagles perspective, which listen, I'm a big Eagles guy, but I think it's completely fair to be completely critical of that win last night. One, I'm not really loving what I saw out of Brian Johnson from a play calling perspective late, where you line up, you look left, you throw a screen, and then you line up, you look right, and you throw a screen to Julio Jones, like, and then you run a quarterback draw during. They are lucky that things broke their way, but during a time where it was like, okay, like we need to go down and get a score here, I was just super whelmed with their play call where it's like, okay, DeAndre Swift's been hot the entire night. Get the ball in his hands on first down, see if he can make something happen. And then I was just looking for more of those like slow, methodical drives where it's like, okay, run Swift, run Swift again. Pretty much every single possession at this point is 4 down territory for us because if we can get it to 4th and 1, we can run the tush push and we can get that first. And I just felt like what they were doing was completely random. Luckily, it was rumored that Jalen Hurts checked to that play that he ripped deep to Smitty. But I mean, if it wasn't for that, like who knows? They could have like easily lost that game. Like I said, I was just underwhelmed with their play calling in crunch time.
Yeah, that series was extremely frustrating to watch. There's not really a valid reason to throw a 35-year-old bubble screen to Julio Jones, especially after you just threw a bubble screen to the other side of the field. That was
Seriously.
infuriating. But I think the mindset was the Chiefs are bringing a lot of pressure. We want to get the ball out quick. And now my rebuttal to that is like there's so many other ways that you can go about getting the ball out quick rather than running back to back bubble screens, one of them being to a 35-year-old receiver. Um, I did not like it at all. That at least that series. I mean, who know if Jalen did? If I saw the tweet that you were referring to, and I saw that. I That's what you should be doing if you are one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. You should be making those changes. And if you're seeing something that you're not liking or that your OC called and you're like, I don't think this is the one, I think you should be able to go ahead and make that change. And ultimately it paid off. I wouldn't hate seeing that maybe a little bit more because like we've said, this play calling just has not been great. Um, I think it is going to end up hurting them at some point, but I hope they figure it out before it really matters.
No, I completely agree. And like I said, they still went out and won the game. That's kind of the most important part there. So, um, the next thing that I kind of want to touch on is the Broncos. Sitting at 5-5, won a close matchup this week. Russ with the game-winning drive. I feel like although this is amazing and they're doing well, and Peyton's got these guys somehow bought in after getting shit pumped and looking really disjointed early in the season. Just feel like almost that like all of this happening for them is like almost a kind of a big negative, because now you're sitting at a spot where you're gonna have to bring Russ back if you guys make the playoffs next year.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fool's gold is what's
so
happening.
so I mean, I think that with Russ, I think that you could get to 500, but even with all of the play calling and everything and how they run these games, it's very run heavy. It's very check down heavy, and like hope to God Cortland Sutton can be a physical freak and make a play. And they've gotten away with it. From the other aspect of on the other side of the field, I just don't think what they're doing on defense is very sustainable when
Yeah.
you have 5-6 turnovers in the last few weeks and like they're flying around and like making things happen. When your defense is so reliant on those turnovers, it kind of puts your defense in a bad spot for when like they actually need to step up and like make a play from like a just stopping them perspective. And they have a hard time with the run, but good thing for the Broncos and happy for them. But at the same time, it's just like almost like, damn, like now you guys are probably going to set yourself back like another like 2 years almost.
Yeah, it's fool's gold. I mean, it looks great right now, but it's ultimately not going to be good for them in the long run. I mean, you touched on it. Having what 6 turnovers these last 3 games is not something that's going to last the rest of the year. Um, eh, it's it's a tough spot. I mean, it's good that they're playing harder and they're looking better, I guess. But like having Cortland Sutton go up there and catch a 50-50 ball to win you the game every time is not sustainable on offense either. Um, he's like sneakily in second in receiving touchdowns for the year, which is good for him. He's been doing well in fantasy, but it's just they're in it, like they're in it, but it's a tough. It's realistically like a bad spot to be long term. I mean,
I
what
think,
happens here? You win, you make the playoffs, and you bring Russ back. You don't have that good draft pick like you originally were hoping, and because they have more issues than just at the quarterback position, and I just don't. It's a it, if you were a fan of the Broncos, you're at such like a fork in the road because it's like, yeah, we're starting to play better and we're finally winning some games, but at the same time, like this, we're not really a good team.
no, no, they're not. And one thing that I think you can take away from this entire situation and everything that's going on is Sean Payton was an absolute home run hire. I mean, there's really not much more to like say about that from the Broncos perspective, trading the picks, paying him a ton of money. And there was a lot of doubt around him when he first got there and everything that was
You
help.
uh you cut out
Yeah, I
after
was just
home run
saying,
hire.
yeah, it was like I just think it's an absolute home run hire for the Broncos. Like there was a ton of doubt around his name when like at the beginning of the season, and I think now the fans can kind of sit there and the ownership group can sit there and be like, okay, trading those picks made sense. Paying him made a ton of sense because how bad it was at the beginning of the season. Like people were like, we even said it. Everybody was saying it like fire sale, sell Judy, sell PS2, get rid of everybody and like start fresh. And then it's like, okay, like hold on, let's hunker down. Let's get these guys right. Let's win a few games. Let's go into some of the most hostile environments in the NFL, like Buffalo and Kansas City, and steal one from these teams. I think that's really impressive and can't be overstated, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, those are two big wins. I mean, who knows? They could end up winning a couple more games. I don't really know what the rest of their schedule looks like, but I'm right there with you. Like you said, I think Sean Payton was a great hire, even though they started off slow. But how long's that guy been retired? Was it only a year?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be some shaking the rust off, shaking the
Definitely.
rust off. But I mean, we know how good of a coach he is. I don't
Yeah.
really think that's a surprise.
Yeah. Just like I said though, like everybody was so down on the Broncos. Now it seems to be like, okay, like at least they're kind of trending in the right direction and building up like an actual culture rather than just being a complete dumpster fire. Speaking of dumpster fires, Matt Canada is officially fired from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which from the outside looking in, I think everybody was kind of like, why aren't you guys making that happen? And then like from their fan base, like chanting it at baseball games, hockey games, football games, like it was a pretty much a campaign in Pittsburgh to like fire Canada, rightfully so. He's been extremely underwhelming as an OC. I think we saw this week maybe kind of drive back some key factors of like I think he was there with end of career Ben Roethlisberger. He was there at the beginning of career of Kenny Pickett, and after this last 3 stretch of game for Kenny, it probably looks like we kind of talked about it the other day. I mean, I started arguing with you as a joke, but it seems like the Steelers are probably going to be moving on from Kenny Pickett too, depending on how the rest of the season goes for him because he's looked very bad.
Yeah, 15 for 28, 106 yards, and like watching the game. He looked worse than that, which
Yeah.
is a terrible line in the first place. But I don't. It was a long time coming that Matt Canada firing. It should have easily happened. I don't know what like happened in this game that was like the deciding factor because they've been outgained in every single game, and Kenny Pickett hasn't really looked good the entire year. Um, I would say like the one like positive about it is Jalen Warren is probably solidified himself as the better running back in that room. Um,
Is that
at
a
least
good
for
thing?
this offense.
But is
I
that a
mean,
good
yeah,
thing?
yeah. You can say
You spend a first round pick on Najee Harris. Is that really a good thing? Like not really.
I mean, Najee Harris has been in the league for what is this his third year?
Yeah, but you spend a first on him.
It happens. You gotta make up for it somewhere. Like
Yeah, I'm just
I'd rather have one good running back than none. So
yeah. No, you're right. I just think that like it's great that Jalen Warren's good, but man, they're really bad and they've really messed up their last like 3 first round picks. Like you take like I
skill
said,
like first round skill positions, I would say.
yeah, I mean, I think that there's even a question mark around the offensive lineman that they took this past year where he hasn't really I don't think he was playing to start the year. They had a veteran over him. I think he's
He
playing now.
he was not playing at the beginning of the year, and but they've been playing him these past couple games, and he's been doing pretty well.
And then you take Kenny at 20, which that was a really weak quarterback class, and it kind of shows even more where Malik Willis isn't playing. Kenny Pickett's probably going to be done playing after this year. And then the year before that, you take Najee Harris when there's probably a lot of other positions that you probably could have built upon in
Yeah.
that time rather than taking a first round running back. But yeah, I think the Steelers are kind of screwed. Injury wise, they kind of lose like a key player every single week on the defensive side of the ball, which like keeps them in things. And then like from the Steelers fan perspective, like all of them were like, I can't properly evaluate Kenny Pickett until he has like a real offensive coordinator and a good O line. Well, respectfully, CJ Stroud has played behind a second string O line the entire season. He's been absolutely balling out. So you either have it or you don't. I just don't think Kenny has it.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like looking back on that draft class, it almost kind of felt like the Steelers got bullied into picking him because there's no like clearly I don't think he's a first round quarterback, and he just was a guy that was in the backyard. He had a decent college career. The Steelers were ready to move on from Big Ben, and it almost feels like they were forced into drafting him like now that you kind of look back on it. Um and as far as the uh evaluation per se of Kenny Pickett goes, they still have some good players to get the football to, but regardless of the OC, I still think you would see flashes that would make you think, okay, we might have something here. And I don't think we've seen substantial flashes of that in Kenny Pickett since he's been in the NFL.
No, and I mean he has real weapons. Like Connor Hayward's a decent tight end. Pat Fryermuth's a decent tight end. Deontay Johnson's a really good receiver. I think. I think George Pickens is talented. Like you just said, Jalen Warren has emerged as like a nice new young running back who's going to be good, and you have somebody like Najee Harris who was taken in the first round. Like you just have all this stuff, and like if you can't do anything with it, like what's the point of having it? And I just think they're in a bad spot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I know that they've announced sort of who's handling the play calling. I can't remember exactly who it is though. Let me see here. Mike Sullivan calling plays. Eddie Faulkner handling offensive operation and weekly tasks is what I was seeing. I'm not too familiar with either one of those guys, so
Yeah, that means nothing to me.
yeah, not at
um,
all.
next
I don't know
thing,
the ins and outs of the Steelers coaching staff.
next thing that surprised me is not waking up this morning and seeing that Brandon Staley has been fired from the Chargers. I don't understand what they're really waiting for and what they're trying to do. Um, Staley, since coming into the league and taking control of the Chargers, they are 31st in special teams and defensive efficiency.
Yep.
Staley was hired on as a quote unquote defensive guru. He gives up the most points every single week, and they don't, like we talked about last week, they really don't have like a real philosophy that they stick by. He preaches one thing and they completely do the other. He got asked about it in the presser this last week, where Jordan Love, who has been ordinary all year, they made him look extraordinary and had a good game. And he got butthurt and was like, I'm going to be the one calling the defense. I believe in my scheme, my philosophy, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. It's just like, at a point, you have to save yourself. You have to save your job. You have to have some sort of self-awareness. I think Staley genuinely and truly lacks that. And I think that's what kind of deserves him to get fired. Again, I know people, the cool thing to do right now is to hate on Herbert. Herbert's been playing out of his mind. He's really good. At a point though, like every quarterback has bad games. Your defense needs to win you one every once in a while.
Yeah, I am the friend that goes to bat for Justin Herbert because he is in. I mean, I don't know if we've seen this good of a quarterback in a worse situation in a while. Um, it's basically like he's playing against his own defense and his own special teams every week because of how bad they are week in and week out. Now, obviously, he's had a bad game here and there, but this guy has to basically go Superman just to win, just to be in a football game at this point. And I don't know what else you can ask this guy to do. He's putting the ball where it needs to go. He's getting drops left and right. They had a great chance to go down and at least kick a game tying field goal, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, Quentin Johnston drops the pass. It fell right in the breadbasket. There was another play that Keenan Allen dropped a pass, like probably right at the 1 yard line or right at the goal line, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just the football gods are not in his are not he's not in their good graces, but it really sucks to hear people slander him when he's I mean, I don't know what else this guy can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think what has to change is, obviously Mike Williams getting hurt every year doesn't help too much either. I think Austin Eckler is completely washed as a running back. He just doesn't really run the ball too well. They were very smart for not paying him. I will give them an ups on that. You have all these pieces on defense: Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, who always gets hurt as well. You have all these like guys who are viewed around the league as kind of like game changers, and you kind of can't execute with them in any way, shape, or form. From the offensive side, yeah, you have Justin Herbert. So, yeah, I don't know what the Chargers are waiting for. They're dead last in the division. The Broncos are over them. The Raiders are over them. It's a bad look. So yeah, I'm waiting for Staley to get fired. Hopefully next week is the week.
Yeah, I don't understand how he's made it this far. I mean, he's been since they brought him in, they've been significantly worse.
I mean, he's kind of overlapped that 1 year, but I think that they've been like 500 around
Yeah,
since he's been there,
yeah.
which
Maybe that
isn't good
first year
enough.
he was 12. They had like 12 wins or something, but I mean, they've been right at 500, like you said, the rest of the time. And with the talent that they have on that team on both sides of the football, there's absolutely zero reason that this team should not be a Super Bowl contender every year.
I completely agree. Um,
I mean,
Next
you
thing,
had them to win every game, and it's
yeah,
I
I
didn't
just
think that
thought,
was going to happen, but it's ridiculous.
yeah, I thought that they would finish. Like, I thought that they would be among the best record in the NFL. I just thought the Eagles would take a step back this year. They haven't. Um, and the Chargers have been extremely underwhelming and disappointing, to say the absolute least.
Yeah, it's I don't understand what's it going to take for them to fire him. Who do the Chargers have this week?
I don't know.
They've
They
got
have,
the Ravens. If they go out there and get smoked by the Ravens, which could easily happen, I I don't think Brandon Staley makes it past this week. The
I hope.
only
I
way
mean,
the only way that he makes it is if Justin Herbert goes out there and plays out of his goddamn mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna say something else there. No, I'm completely with you. But even I think it's a very fair criticism from now on to review how the defense plays even in a win. So even if they go out and win a game but give up a ton of points, that's on Staley. So let's like hyper focus on that and be like,
Yeah.
okay, Staley's point of expertise isn't going well, like, and he's lost some very key games. I go back to the original big loss that they had last year against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville, up 27-3, losing 31-30. It should have been over right there. I mean, that is an all-time bad loss. And when something happens like that in a locker room, like it you don't shake it unless if you go out and dominate, and they haven't done that. So I think it's just going to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, truly, that should have been the last straw.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, he was given another shot, and we see how things have progressed.
Next thing, this is like a corny headline, but I kind of like it. I don't care. The Lions are 8-2 for the first time since 1960, which like everybody's been talking about it, but like That's pretty crazy. Like, that's a long ass time, and good for the
Yeah.
Lions, good for Dan Campbell. They absolutely tried to give one to the Bears last week, and the Bears can't smell a win. They definitely tried to lose that game. 17 points in the fourth quarter, came back to win. Um, yeah, I mean, I think kind of the criticism that we gave the Lions last week is we questioned their defense. I think that's still in question, but if you have an offense that can go down and score 2 touchdowns in a quarter, not many offenses can do that in the NFL. I think they're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this before. Their offense is the real deal. They've got a lot of guys over there that are scary with the football, but the defense is still in question. I was watching this game the whole time. Like, are the Bears really about to pull this off? And they just couldn't get the job done. And I think that's like the biggest thing is just being able to finish a football game. And I mean, I thought Justin Fields like looked okay. I mean, he ran all over the place. I just don't like. Is this a game that if you're the Bears front ownership, you're like, okay, do we have something here, or are the Bears fully on to a new quarterback?
No, I don't see how you can be. I think Justin Fields is good. I think I know that that's like it's kind of the same conversation that we had last week where it's like, okay, Justin Fields has something. He obviously takes his job serious. He comes in phenomenal shape. He looks amazing. He's growing as a passer. He's absolutely a dangerous weapon on his feet. Like, it's just about finding that style. Like, think about like what the Ravens did with Lamar. Like,
Yeah,
you need to find a style and buy into that style and kind of sell out your organization for that style, because that's the guy that you want to build around. You can't look at what's going on here in the draft and be like, unless if you have an absolute home run, like I think that this guy is it. You can't you can't guarantee anything with these rookie quarterbacks that are coming in, and you have so much leeway with all this draft capital and all these picks, and you're gonna have to you might have the 1 and 2 pick in this draft. So like at that point, you can be like, well, let's just fucking trade everything that we could possibly ever trade, and let's just build around Justin. And guess what? Even if it doesn't work out with Justin in 2 years, in 3 years, we're gonna have more than enough draft capital to be able to go out and get a quarterback at that point.
yeah. I think the addition of DJ Moore has really helped. I mean, when Justin Fields is in there, we see him going to DJ Moore a lot, which obviously I think is a good thing. I think they just need like another guy or two. I mean, Darnell Mooney, people expected him to sort of take that next step and like kind of solidify himself as that number two, I think. And I don't think we've really seen that from him.
He fell
Um,
off.
yeah, I think Cole Kmet is a decent, like an average to like somewhere right in the average level of tight end right now. So like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too worried about him. I just think they need to find another guy um on in that wide receiver room. And I mean, if the Bears decide, hey, we're gonna stick with Justin Fields, they do have to begin to work around the style of play that's best for him. I don't think the style of play is throw the ball 40 times. I just don't think that's who he is. I think he can be very effective if you end up having to have him throw the ball like 30 to 32, but also you're drawing up like similar to what the Eagles were doing last year with Jalen Hurts. Um, Obviously, it's easier said than done to do something like that because the Eagles' O line is so much better, but you got to start somewhere. You got to figure out if this is the guy that you want to keep. Otherwise, get rid of him because I think he still has some good value. I think there are teams that would be willing to take a chance on him, especially if, like, especially some of these like middle of the road teams like that aren't going to be able to pick a quarterback in that upper first round.
The Falcons.
That's exactly who I was going to say. I think the
Yeah.
Falcons are probably a great team. They can run the football. They have guys on the offense, on the outsides that are legitimate playmakers. They have a pretty good defense. I think that, I mean, we said this how many times that we don't understand why they didn't take a shot for Lamar. Um, Obviously, he's not Justin Fields isn't Lamar, but I mean, he's better than what they have right now.
Man,
And I think you can build around him.
yeah, I'm high on Justin Fields. Like, I'm not like, I don't feel the way that like a lot of other people feel about him, I guess. Like, I just think that like it takes time to develop in the league. And like, I think that he has really high end potential. And I think that if he can grow as a passer, like, you'll be in a good spot. But like, with that being said, I think that the Bears are just going to continue to keep growing as an organization. And I know that like it's weird because there's so many like flows throughout the season where you think that they're going to be really bad. You think that they're going to like kind of throw the towel in. Justin Fields is done. I think I might have even said that this year. Like, but like
Yeah.
you
I
kind
think
of,
we both did.
yeah, you kind of like watch how things are developing. You'd be like, well, is Eberflus the guy? Like, maybe not, but like, I think that they have like some really great pieces on their roster to be able to build around. And I just think Justin Fields is one of those quarterbacks where you can't like slightly give up on him yet.
Yeah, I think if you can get get the passing down to like even just be like average or right above average, I think his athleticism can make up for a lot of things, and just putting him in smart situations where he can be effective as an athlete is obviously easier said than done, but I think you might have something if you're able to figure that part of it out.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much everything that I have on this week's games. If you want to dive into what you have, like let's get it going.
I had just some general housekeeping per usual. So this past weekend I was at a Flyers game. Those are electric. This was my first pro hockey game. Um, we were behind, like pretty much at the top, but we were behind the goal that the Flyers shot at twice. Um, and I'm in my seat. Excuse me. I'm in my seat, and people are starting to move, like going to find theirs. And I look to my left, and there's a guy walking up the steps with a shaved head and the Colt 45 logo tattooed on the side of his head.
It's
So,
fire.
not something you see every day.
No.
The Flyers did end up winning that game in overtime, but
They're hot.
I missed the game-winning goal because I had to take a piss.
Okay.
As I was walking out, I said to everybody, "Can't wait for them to score." I get into the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom. I hear everybody cheering. I'm like, "Of course, there it is."
Why didn't you go before the OT started?
I went right before it started, and I had
Oh,
to
like
wait in line a
right
little
away.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to wait in line a little bit, and then they scored like maybe a minute in.
I think the Flyers are hot per sources, and my sources are Andrew Ford because he loves the Flyers. But yeah,
They're good when they have when their goalie is healthy.
definitely.
I think it's
Actually, I have no clue. I don't know why I said definitely.
I forget his name. It's like Carter Hart or something like that, but they're pretty good whenever he plays is what I've gathered. Um, all right, next I have here that Jordan Travis, quarterback for Florida State. I feel really bad for that guy because he was in a great spot to play in a college football playoff and just demolished his leg and is just done for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it goes back to the drop leg tackle strategy that believe is probably going to get banned across all leagues. I know Warren Sharp took like a big criticism online, like, oh, like you've just never played football, like blah blah blah. Like, I'm completely on his side with this. It's about making sure that your key pieces and the guys who are gonna make for the most amount of eyes on the game are healthy. And when those drop leg tackles are like, they're dangerous. I mean, they're just flat dangerous. I saw Ray Lewis clips get kind of surfaced on X all week where whenever he tackled people, he spun them and threw them to the ground. And everybody was like, if like there's people who don't drop leg tackle, like I do think that like it's a dirty tactic. I think that I know that rugby implemented it into their professional leagues where you aren't allowed to do that because there were so many like broken ankles, broken legs because of it. And I think you're going to see the exact same thing happen in the NFL this offseason.
Yeah, I think it'll probably end up getting banned as well. It's really unfortunate. It feels like those tackles do normally result in injuries. All I'll say is tackling in the NFL is hard.
Yeah.
In football in general, it's hard, especially when you're dealing with a guy that's bigger, faster, and stronger than you, and you got to do whatever you can within the game to get him down. I don't
Did
want
you
anybody to get hurt. I didn't see Warren Sharp's dissertation on it, but I I see some of these tackles, the drop, what is it, like drop leg, drop hip,
Yeah,
and
drop hip tackles, that's it.
drop hip, and I'm like, all right, if they didn't do that, I don't think this person is going to be able to tackle this other person because I feel like a lot of it is I don't I don't know how to like describe some of these scenarios, but it just seems like it's a lot of times where the guy that has the football is a lot bigger, faster, and stronger, like I said, and it's just tough. It's a tough spot to be in if you're a defender.
It is tough, but we watch tackles all the time, and those drop hip tackles, I feel, don't happen that often. They happen like once in a game. Like, and when it happens that once in the game, like somebody snaps their ankle. So like
Yeah.
I think that like I feel you, and like there might be like a heat of the moment where you do it and you're not thinking of it because it's happening so fast. But when somebody does the drop hip tackle, it's so obvious and it's so different looking from all the other tackles that are going on. Um, Something too, real quick. Did you see the Tom Brady quote this week? He just dropped a podcast with Stephen A. Smith.
I saw like bits and pieces about how he said that just the play right now is not elite. I didn't really I forgot to
So
click on it, but
so I'll break it down for you real quick, and I think it's interesting and an interesting take where he pretty much said there's a lot of bad play in the NFL right now, and the reason that he thinks of that is because of coaching, and he thinks that the penalties on the defense are unfair because of sloppy play on the offensive side of the football, where when you played, he used Ray Lewis as an example. He was like, when we played Ray Lewis, I wouldn't throw to the middle of the field because I couldn't afford to lose a receiver because he was going to get absolutely crushed. So I think what's going on now is a good point by Tom where it's like, okay, like just because the offense is sloppy and making bad strategical errors from like a play calling perspective where you're putting your guys in places to get blown up doesn't mean that the defense should be penalized for that, or even worse, like big fines, suspended from games just because they're trying to do their jobs. I think that what they're doing, like we talked about the drop hip tackle, I think that that's bad, but I think that some of these targeting penalties are ridiculous. Like Kareem Jackson just got back from a 2-game suspension and he comes downhill and absolutely pops Josh Dobbs like
yeah.
hard, like it was one of the biggest hits I've
Yeah,
seen
I
all
saw
year,
that.
and no flag gets called, nothing. And then after the game, he gets a 4-game suspension. It's like, well, how is there not even an unnecessary roughness call in the field, but he's getting a 4-game suspension after they quote unquote review it? I just like don't think that's fair. I think it makes everybody's job extremely hard and honestly kind of makes them walk on eggshells low key because what are they going to do? Because they're going to be like, well, dude, I'm going to get fined fucking 50 grand if this happens and lose 4 game checks. So like, what's the point? Like at a point you have to let them play.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm like hesitant on the drop hip tackle. Like I don't want anybody to get hurt, but it's getting to a point where just tackling these guys, like I said, and I'll continue to say, tackling is hard. Now, that specific what was the guy's name? Steven Jackson.
Stephen A. Smith.
No, it's a guy from the Broncos.
Oh, Kareem Jackson.
Kareem Jackson. I mean, that's absolute bullshit for them not
Yeah.
to not to be a penalty on the field and then him get a suspension after they review it. If it isn't called on the field, how can you even say that that makes absolutely no sense to me. I do think some of the targeting is getting crazy. I do think some of the roughing the passer is getting crazy. I understand wanting to protect quarterbacks because that's who people want to see, but some of these are just so bang bang plays that it it's it almost feels like any time a quarterback is getting touched, a flag is getting thrown. And I think there has to be somewhat of a, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but there has to be a change because some of these plays that are roughing the passer that are happening the split second that the quarterback is getting rid of the football is not roughing the passer, because at that point, as a defender and you hit a quarterback, you can still affect a pass at like the very last second of a throw. Like, and that's some of those plays are getting called as roughing the passer, and I just don't agree. Now, obviously, the blatant ones where the ball's out 2 steps, like I think the Fletcher Cox roughing the passer last night was roughing the passer, but some of these calls are just getting really bad, and it's just putting defenders in such a bad spot, having to pull up. Like it, I, at some point, people are going to get even more hurt than the risk that they run playing every week, anyways.
This is completely off topic, but you just had me think of it, bro. Patrick Mahomes and how he plays at this year,
James Harden.
I am absolutely tired of every single thing that happens on the field. Him automatically like shot in on his face of the main cam, and him just like crying to the referees.
He's James Harden. He's looking for a penalty every play.
It's so bad. Like anything that happens, no matter what, like there was a late play where he gets hit and it turned out not to be a flag at all. It was a clean hit. And he's just like on the ground, like looking at the ref. And I'm just like, dude, every time you throw a ball, it's not pass interference. Every time you get hit, it's not a 15-yard pass, a personal foul. Like, you guys aren't going to get those every single week. I know you're used to getting those every single week, but like that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So when you have a referee crew where they're going to let them play and you're not getting those calls, I mean, you saw what happened. They choked a 2-score lead and the Eagles won. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Last night was like one of the nights where I was obviously watching Mahomes like more intently because obviously they're playing my team. And I didn't realize just how much he complained about penalties probably until last night.
Yeah, I bet against them every week, so I know, but go ahead.
I can understand wanting them here and there because you're used to getting them, but it's just getting to the point where he was complaining like every time. And now I think those refs last night were letting the boys play. I think there was a lot of calls that I think at the end of that game, there was calls that made up for bad calls for both teams.
I agree.
I think there was a lot of holding calls on Jalen Carter that didn't get called, but there was also probably a few calls for the Chiefs that didn't get called on them. So like I think it all evened out. There was that PI that didn't get called on Travis Kelce when Kevin Byard was guarding him along the far sideline. And they were complaining he was complaining nonstop about that. And then they said that it was, and I think it was I think it was roughing the passer, that Fletcher Cox play, but I think it could have been close.
Yeah, I think
and
so too.
even the guys in the booth were like, that was probably roughing the passer, but that's just one that feels like it was really close. And I think that was just like the makeup version call of them not getting that PI. So like I think it evened out, but like I said, I never realized how much Mahomes complains. And Kelsey was doing a lot of complaining too. Like there was a
He's
couple
bad,
times where
man.
Hassan Reddick was just cooking him and he had no choice but to hold him. And he was complaining that he was getting called for hold. So
Go
grow
ahead
up.
though. Continue with your list. My bad. We kind of got off kilter.
That's all right. We needed that. I needed to get that off my chest. Uh oh, Giants Commanders.
Yeah.
How's Riverboat Ron not fired?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good one.
Coach.
That's a good question. Listen, I have to fucking piss bad. Because I keep slamming this water. But I will say, like, real quick, and then you can go on. I just think they need like a vibe switch up where like we expect the thing that's weird is like, okay, they traded away their defensive pieces, and then we sat here and we're like, you know what? They're gonna be bad. They're down to be bad. Then they go out and like win a game. Then or they go out and like are super competitive against the Eagles and like win a game against I forget who. No,
It was very they beat the Patriots and then they traded away all their guys and then they lost on a last second field goal to the Seahawks.
yeah, but they were competitive. So like we
Yeah.
were all kind of like, okay, well, like they're still competitive. They're gonna go out and beat the Giants. And then Danny DeVito like absolutely snaps. And the Giants defense finally Wink Martindale had them boys flying around. And there was a ton of turnovers, ton of interceptions from Sam Howell, and the Giants actually capitalized on all those turnovers. I'm gonna go piss.
Yeah. All right. So I don't really know like what the thought process was for the Commanders for this season. I mean, they were right in it. This is actually the second time they've lost to the Giants, which is really bad. So I guess that makes them technically like the worst team in the NFL, but lose to the Giants 14-7, are in it right down to the wire with the Eagles 38-31, beat the Patriots 2017 in another close game, and then they trade away everybody. No, I'm sorry. They played the Seahawks. No, they traded everybody after Patriots, played the Seahawks, one score game, come out here this week against a bad Giants team and lose by 12. 3 picks for Sam Howell. I don't know if he just likes playing the Eagles the most out of any team because he plays like he's prime Tom Brady against them, and then everybody else he's just not very good against. But this is inexcusable. There's no reason that they should have lost to Tommy DeVito and Jersey Juice.
Yeah.
I don't like I said, I don't get how Riverboat Ron still has a job.
So real quick to talk about Sam Howell. Sam Howell's playing style is boom or bust. You're either going to get a crazy game where their offense is going to be amazing, or they're going to struggle because he's going to throw multiple picks. So there's that. Second, I just don't get how he's not fired. There's a few coaches that I feel as if should be fired right now, and they're just not. And I don't know what they're waiting for, but yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say. I think it's crazy.
I wanted to say that I'm right there with you. I don't get why they don't just, unless Eric Bieniemy doesn't want to be a head coach, which could very well be the situation because he's interviewed for so many of them apparently and just hasn't gotten any, or maybe he just sucks at interviewing. But they have him there at the OC, and I don't know. This could be a good time for them to give him a shot if he really wants to be a head coach. See what you have there. If not, he just sticks to coaching the offense. But it's I just don't get it. You can't lose to the Giants two times this year and still have your job.
I'm with you completely.
I do have another game, the Bills and the Jets. Bills started off slow, figured it out in the second half. Jets finally are benching Zach Wilson, and he's
third
not even
string.
I was going to say he's not even going to 2. He's going to 3. There was a stat
It was time.
I saw on. It was definitely time. There was a stat I saw on Twitter about Tim Boyle, and it blows my mind that a guy like that is in the NFL because he was bad in college and he's been bad in the NFL, and yet he's somehow still on a team. I don't get it.
Relationships.
I get, okay, that makes sense, but also there's got to be a line in the sand that you draw when somebody's that bad.
Listen, we talked about it already. Aaron Rodgers is a really bad GM. And the fact that the Jets let
Tim
him,
Boyle was there the whole time.
but he's Rodgers' boy.
Is he actually?
Yes.
Okay.
He wasn't there the entire time. He's Rodgers' boy.
I thought he was the 3rd string or the 2nd string last year.
No, that was Mike White. It was Mike White and Joe Flacco.
You're right.
He's Rodgers'
CFL bowl.
Yes. Chris Trevler.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody who is in the building this past week who is an ex-player for the Jets. He essentially said like Rodgers is the head coach and he's the GM. They literally let him do whatever he wants. And I just genuinely truly think that when we look back at the quote unquote Aaron Rodgers experience in 2 years, 3 years, I would be shocked if they even make a playoff berth. Just strictly based off of Rodgers in his late career, thinking that he is smarter than everybody else and knows everything. And I think the Jets set themselves back a very long time by doing what they did with this Rodgers move.
Yeah, I mean, we reported it here live last week that Rodgers is not coming back.
People forget.
He's definitely not. There's just there's no way. They're not going to be this is what he's doing. He's sticking around. He's saying, "Oh yeah, I'll be back beginning of December. I'll be back. They're going to get to a point where they're not in playoff contention, and then he's going to be like, "Oh, well, I was able to come back if we were in playoff contention, but we're not." And realistically, he was never going to come back.
No. I said it. I think I said literally that exact same sentence last week. He loves the attention. Kelsey said it, and I don't love Kelsey this year, but he was like, Rodgers game day is Tuesday when he gets to go on Pat McAfee's show. I think I agree with that completely. I like Rodgers from like a dude perspective. Like I think he's a cool guy, but like from the late career Aaron Rodgers that we're getting where he's like know-it-all mode. I want control of a team. I want ownership. I want this, that, and the third. I think that he's just done nothing but prove that he shouldn't be in charge of doing that.
Yeah, he's not LeBron.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 other things. This is still under the housekeeping that I have here is I don't know if you saw this video, but at halftime, this is completely off topic. At halftime,
I already know what you're talking about because
the Sunday night Lakers game, this dude took a half-court shot for what, like $500,000?
Yeah.
Something crazy, and tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
In front of everybody at the Staples Center. I'm not calling it the other name.
Crypto
yeah.
Arena.
I mean, does it get any more embarrassing than that?
So my first reaction was like, he's probably rich. Not hitting the shot or not. And if they don't have them sign a waiver, that's like, yo, if you like somehow tear your Achilles while shooting a half-court shot, like we're definitely not liable for that. Like, but I just like don't think that that's the case. And I think like tearing your Achilles like on the court like that, like for a prize without any sort of proper like signatures and shit like that. Like I actually think that he can kind of come up off on a bag. Like I
Well,
do.
I hope he can
Yeah.
because
Otherwise he's fucked.
otherwise, otherwise he's
Yeah.
absolutely cooked.
Yeah.
There's I don't think there's any coming back from that if you don't get some form of payment.
Bro, I'm 26, about to be 27 years old. If I tore my Achilles, I would literally be shell shocked.
I'd
So
hang it up.
like I couldn't imagine having
I'd
that
hang it up.
happen. Like
I would
so
just go full. I'd go wheelchair, blanket on my lap.
yeah.
Like
I'm
that's it.
practically I'm practically there now, the amount of pain that I'm in every single day.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
I totally.
so I definitely think that we'll see if we can get this guy a bag for the Lakers and whatever your next housekeeping thing is.
The last one I have is that I think Thanksgiving is just like one of the best weeks for sports. There's so much college basketball, NBA. Now there's NFL on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and then we got college football like Friday, like every day.
Yeah, I think it's a great week for sports. I saw somebody tweet steaks this year because turkey sucks. Like I didn't know that was a thing. Like I personally like love turkey. Like I think it's good as fuck. I like it because you eat it like once a year, like, and then you
Yes.
get like the leftovers, obviously, for like the week after. But like, I just never knew that that was like a thing that people were like trying to push was like turkey's bad. I've just always loved turkey, so I couldn't imagine like thinking anything else.
Listen, I think it's safe to say that we're a pro Thanksgiving podcast over here.
Yeah,
The amount of hate that Thanksgiving gets and the amount of push to the side that it gets is truly disgusting. Everybody goes right from Halloween, oh, it's time for Christmas.
yeah,
And Thanksgiving just gets pushed to the side, and Thanksgiving is an elite holiday.
yeah. I think so too.
I mean, what is better than waking up, getting eating all the food that you can possibly have, excuse me, having some bevs, and then just watching sports all day long. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
just
it gets
don't
better.
see. I don't see the. I don't know. I just never. I guess I didn't think of any of. I just noticed it this year for some reason. Like people were saying, like Thanksgiving sucks. Like Thanksgiving is just one of those holidays. I don't go out. I don't drink, but I know people like the big thing to do at like Thanksgiving Eve is to like go out with like old high school friends and like hang out and drink and like and then like the next day you like get to hang out with like family and friends and like eat and like chill and hang out. Like I don't really think you can ask for much more from like a Thanksgiving from like a holiday perspective. I think what's so great about Thanksgiving is that it's so simple and like it makes it elite just from the simplicity of the holiday.
Yeah, I think it's a grown man holiday.
Yeah, I think so too. I love it. I'm excited. I'm cooking this year, but I mean, that's a completely different story. We can keep going on with what we were talking about.
What's last thing? What's your favorite dish at Thanksgiving?
Um, yeah, I like I mean, this is probably I don't know if this counts, but I like doing like the King's dinner rolls and Andrew Ford put me on to putting like a little dash of butter on the roll and then putting a piece of turkey and some gravy on it. Like that's just my personal favorite is like after meal turkey like small turkey sandwich to kind of just like get the juices flowing a little bit. I think it's great.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. My grandma makes this like green bean casserole.
Yeah.
So fire. So
Yeah.
good. And
I can't
then
wait. I'm
we
excited.
got the Hawaiian rolls too. I'm ready to go. But all right, on to the football. We got three
I love
games. We got
turkey, man.
it's so good.
You got me fired up.
It's
Bro,
so good.
I just think it's good. Like I genuinely cannot believe that people don't fuck with turkey. Like, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Like,
They're not grown.
you just got me like I'm thinking about like on Thursday, bro. Like it actually might be like I'll tell you the
It's
first
on
thing
site.
I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna eat, and then I'm driving over to the Ford's house, and I'm just gonna eat some of their deep fried turkeys and hang out over there.
Sounds like a great plan.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm excited now.
I was just gonna say we got 3 games on Thanksgiving. Let's dive
Let's
in.
hear it. Yeah.
All
Do you
right.
want me to pull up the? Do you want me to
Yeah.
pull up the screen, or do you want to just read it?
No, pull it up. I think it's better.
I'm in so much pain right now.
That's nothing that some turkey can't cure.
Oh,
Some
dude.
turkey stuffing, little gravy.
Wow.
Woo!
Let's take a look here. Let me take a look at something here. Oh shit. Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. First game, Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions. Man, I don't know how I feel about this game other than I kind of like the over in this game.
Yeah.
And I think that this could be this is like sneaky like player prop game probably.
I love the Lions here. I think this is the first time that they've played on Thanksgiving while they were a good team and how long. I think that place is going to be jumping
Electric.
on Thursday. Sorry. I think the Lions run it up.
Yeah, I think it'll be electric. I'm with you.
I do like the over, but I think the Lions run it up. I think they get a couple stops when they need to, and I think they run through the Packers.
I like that. Next game, Cowboys Commanders. First things first. I know that you don't like Dak. Man, Dak is special.
He's been playing very good football.
And he's a really, really high-end quarterback and high IQ as well. I mean, what he's been doing over the last few weeks, like he's been absolutely picking apart defenses, and it's fun to watch. It's been bad teams, but at least you're handling business against bad teams. Wanted to shout out Dak because I really like him. I also love the Cowboys in this spot because I've been betting on them the last 3 weeks and they've done nothing but help me.
Yeah, my sources told me that CD, Dak, and Mike McCarthy had to sit down and basically said CD was like, "Get me the football." And since then, he's just been in his bag.
Well, did McCarthy smash any watermelons?
I don't think he did in that one, but he might have eaten a couple Jolly Ranchers in the meeting that were watermelon flavored. But CD's been in his bag since then, and the Cowboys have just been beating the piss out of teams. And I don't think that stops here. I think the Commanders are bad, and I think the Cowboys beat bad teams, and this is a Cowboys whooping, I think.
I'm with you. I want to just say Deron Bland is the real deal. 5th round rookie, or 5th round pick 2 years ago. He's really good. I remember Colt said something about like Adam Thielen, and I said, "Bruh, Deron Bland's gonna have him on lock tomorrow." And he goes, "I don't even know who Deron Bland is." I was like, "He's one of the highest graded PFF corners, so get used to him." And then he went out and had a pick 6. He has more touchdowns than like some big time high end receivers. I think he's got 4 pick 6s on the year. He's absolutely balling.
Yeah, he's going crazy.
Way to step up with Diggs being out for the rest of the year. Next game. If Geno's, I know Geno's banged up. I know he's playing. Kenny Walker just got hurt. That really hurts them. Unfortunately, like it just feels like saying like just picking all of like the favorites and this spot is like so lazy. But it just feels like a 49ers win here in dominant fashion.
I know. I'm trying like really hard to talk. I was trying really hard to like put myself in a spot where I didn't pick 3 favorites, but I mean, there's just nothing that the Seahawks they're going the wrong direction right now.
They're just hurt.
it's not like they're playing like it's not like what we saw with the Giants against the Commanders. Like it's not like the Commanders were a good team and the Giants were just really bad. It's just like the Giants are bad, but the Commanders are also not good. The Seahawks are Geno's banged up. They won't have Kenneth Walker. It looks like the Niners are starting to kind of put it together now that they're back and healthy. I just can't really see us. I mean, unless Geno taps into his superpowers, I can't really see the Seahawks being in this one.
Yeah, like even this next game, dude, I just think it's lazy. Like I really
I know.
do. But and I hate doing this, but I
It's what
just
we get
think
paid the big bucks for.
I just think it's
Pick winners.
I just think it's a Miami dominant fashion, and we're probably gonna look absolutely foolish for just picking like four
So far,
touchdown.
4 for 4. Yeah.
Yeah, four favorites by a touchdown or more this weekend, but just the way it's shaking out and the way that each roster looks, probably looking back on any pick, the Commanders Cowboys probably could be a competitive game if we wanted to get technical. If you think that if the Commanders can keep it within 2 scores,
Yeah.
but other than that, like I don't know, man. I think these big favorites are probably going to pay out.
Yeah. What I was gonna say during that Giants Commanders discussion was I feel like there has been a few times this year where maybe this year more than ever, maybe just because it's recency bias, but like a spot starter or like a super random rookie guy is playing and just like randomly pulls out a W. I feel like that's been happening more this year than any other year. And I could be easily wrong, but that's like kind of what that Tommy DeVito Giants win made me think of.
Well, I
Um,
think probably in past years you haven't seen it as much as you've seen it this year. And I mean, bro, Tommy DeVito has been playing quarterback now for in the NFL for a month. If you can't put it
which is so
together,
weird. But that's so weird because they're like he's just not that good, and
yeah,
he looked like a
he's still a
competent NFL
professional.
quarterback. Yeah,
Yeah, he's still a professional. Like I said, I think that like if you're a professional and you take your job serious, and I think that you can go out and win a game. Like I said it last week when we were on the pod together. I said the Commanders should not be more than a touchdown favorites over anybody in the league. The Giants were a +9.5, bet it and hold your nose play, and then they were outright winners. So I mean, we did give that out last week.
is this a spot where Tim Boyle leads the Jets?
I don't see it, man. I think the Jets are absolutely demoralized. I do. Last week even their defense didn't look good, which you can kind of usually hang your hat on. Um, I think that the locker room shot. I think morale's shot. I think the season's over, and having Tim Boyle run out there as your starter is a rough look.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot too for the Dolphins to like. I don't know what the standings are looking like, but I think they're up 2 games. I think this is a really good chance for them to pull away in that
I'm right with you.
in that AFC East. Yeah, the second half they just did not look great. That Jets defense. Now I get it; it's Josh Allen, and he's still good, even if he does turn the ball over a little bit too much. But I also think this Dolphins defense is starting to like kind of put it together now that
What
they're
I
healthy. They got
what
their
I
dude
say?
Jalen Phillips back. I was right there with you. I fully agreed with you
What I
because
say in the loss
they had
against the Chiefs? So
I
when they lost to the Chiefs, I said I said the thing that I said when I was breaking down. I can go back. I think I said like the Dolphins defense is back.
when the Dolphins lost to the Chiefs.
Yes, overseas.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to like think of that game, and I'm like, I can't even remember what the hell happened in that game,
I
but
came
I do
back
remember
from
it.
that game, and that was my takeaway from that game was like,
Yes,
wow, that
yes,
their defense is really taking into form. That was a few weeks ago, and I mean, they look legit.
yeah. They got some guys back. They got Ramsey. They got Jalen Phillips in there, and I mean, Ramsey's still such a dog, and
Yeah,
Jalen Phillips is a monster. So I think it could get ugly.
I'm with you. Bro, next game. I mean, we're
I
getting
hate.
lazy.
I know. I
We're
hate
getting
these.
lazy.
I might have to pick the Giants just so we don't pick every favorite. Because is Zappy starting in this game or what's happening here?
He said that he's not sure yet. He'll let us know on Sunday.
Oh my god! If the Patriots lose, does Bill Belichick and the Patriots mutually agree to part ways in the post game presser?
Who did?
I'm asking you. If the Patriots lose, do they and Belichick mutually agree to part ways in the presser post game?
I don't think that you see the Patriots move on from Bill Belichick in midseason. They'll stick it out with him until the end of the year. The guy's won so many playoff games, so many Super Bowls, so many meaningful games for them that you're never going to look at that guy halfway through the season, no matter how bad it is, and get rid of him.
I'm just presenting the question. I'm just asking the hard hitting questions.
No, I agree. I hate to get lazy here, but I do think that it's a Patriots outright win.
Dude, I just let go of the deepest sneeze, and my traps are killing me after that one.
That's the weirdest feeling when that happens. That happened to me before too.
Holy hell. Yeah, I think the Patriots end up winning this one too. I think the Giants like found a little lightning in a bottle, but I think the Patriots like actually have to win this one
Yeah.
for the sake of their franchise.
Next one, big shock. We're going with a favorite. I hate the Steelers so much, but if you think that they're extremely fraudulent, which I think so, you should take the Bengals in this spot, but having Jake Browning as the QB is actually insane. So it's kind of one of those situations where if you absolutely hate the Steelers and think that they're a fraudulent team and that they're going to start to unravel, take the Bengals. If you think the Steelers are somewhat competent still, slam the Steelers. That's all I have to say.
For some reason, whenever a team moves on from a coach, it always feels like they win the game the following week.
Yeah.
Like the Raiders fired Josh McDaniel and they went on to win the following week. The Bills fired their OC, they won. Penn State fired their OC, they won. Like didn't Texas A&M win the week after they fired Jimbo Fisher? Like it
But
feels like the teams.
what's in common with all of those teams that you just said? They went out the next week and they beat a really bad football team. Or a
Yeah, I
team
think the
that
Bengals aren't good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't
Without
think
Joe Burrow, I don't think they're good.
I think that what you can point to here in this situation is they still have Lou Anarumo. They still have a good defense. They still have Zach Taylor calling plays. They still have Joe Mixon. Their T. Higgins is coming back. You still have Tyler Boyd. You still have Jamar Chase. If Jake Browning is somewhat competent, can he pull a home win off against the Steelers team, who we both agree are extremely fraudulent?
Yeah.
I think yes.
I mean,
I think yes. I think that the Bengals could probably win outright over the Steelers in this situation, but it's definitely a hard thing to take.
yeah. I mean, definitely on the under of this game. But I think I'm gonna take the Steelers.
I respect that.
I'm sticking to my theory of whenever a team fires a coach, they win the next week.
Not a bad thing to stick by. Next game, probably my favorite game on the board. Jacksonville Jaguar.
Wait, no, we skipped the Panthers Titans.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, I'm taking the Panthers. I like the Panthers in that one. So
yeah,
I just wanted to say that. So that was my first game that wasn't a favorite.
Yeah, I like the Panthers in that spot too, but man, I don't give a fuck about that game. I don't think it has any implications in any way, shape, or form for either of them. I
No.
probably won't watch a second of it.
Yeah,
Um,
both of those two teams are just playing to get to the end of the season.
yeah. But a game that does have serious implications right now is Jacksonville versus Houston at Houston. Um, Jacksonville's been really good to me the entire season. And this week I didn't take them because I got scared off after the 49ers loss and they went out and dominated. They looked really good on offense. So right now I'm gonna just say it. I will be taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know why I let one loss scare me off like that. They're still a really good football team.
Yeah, I think they're really good too. I also think the Texans are good. I think
Yeah.
I think if you can go out and throw 3 picks and still win the game, um, I get it. It is against the Cardinals though. If you're gonna throw 3 picks and still win, that's probably one of the teams you're gonna end up doing it against. I'm going with the Texans.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm riding the CJ Stroud
I'm so happy you
train.
picked I'm so happy you picked the
Yeah,
Texans.
because every time I pick against you, you end up winning. So
I was like hoping that you didn't pick the Jags. Next game,
I
Saints.
if I were to actually bet on this game, which I don't think I'm going to, I would bet the Jags, but I'm picking the Texans because
Fuck.
of CJ Stroud.
Next game,
I just think the
Falcons.
Texans are or the Jags are playing better, and that 49ers week was just a week of like, oh well, shit happens.
Real quick,
The Niners are good.
since we're on it, the the Ringer Boys, which we listen to a lot. There's no secret there.
Not at all.
They're
Not at all.
they like always say like how fraudulent the Jacksonville Jaguars are, and I'm just like, I just don't see it. I guess I don't see what they're seeing like from that perspective. I think that they're just a good football team, and every team has laid a stinker this year.
Yeah, I mean they have two they just don't have like a win that that they can really like hang their hat on is probably the thought process there.
Yeah,
Like their wins are versus the Titans, at Pittsburgh, at New Orleans, versus the Colts, versus at Bills, versus the Falcons, and at Colts. Like none of those wins are like jumping off the page.
yeah. I think
Now,
though that when you look back at it, is everybody was really heavy on the Steelers when they were in Pittsburgh during a rainy
no doubt.
game. And then you look back at the Saints game, everybody was on the Saints. And it was a Thursday night in New Orleans, and everybody was like, the Saints are going to make this thing ugly. And they just went out and rolled. At
I
the
was
end of
on
the
the
game,
Jags that day.
at the end of the game, they came back, but I mean, they still won the football game.
We were on the Jags that week for
Of
sure against
course.
the Saints.
Yeah.
We didn't let the tomfoolery get to us.
No.
But yeah, that's what I'm just trying to provide some reason. I think that that's
Gotcha.
probably why they don't think it, because I mean they don't really have a win that jumps off, like I said. But I still think like that doesn't bother me. I still think they're good.
Next game, New
They
Orleans
also
Saints
already beat the Texans, or they also lost to the
to
Texans
Texans.
this year already. They
Yeah.
kind of got smoked.
Yes.
So
That's why
that should make you feel even better.
I think realistically they split the series.
Yeah.
Next game, Atlanta, New Orleans. I'm taking Atlanta here. I don't care. I'm taking Atlanta money line. I think that they win this game. I think the Saints aren't good. I think that the Falcons, I think the Arthur Smith situation is a little bit more overstated than what it should be. I get the frustrations from what they are dealing with from like a fan base, but I think Arthur Smith's a really, really good coach, really high IQ. They're off of a bye, and I think that they handle business at home.
I just don't think he has a lot to work with as far as like quarterback play goes. Like
Yeah.
I know that I was asking for Heineke throughout this season. I thought that he would play better than that based off of what I've seen from him. And it just turns out that he's a backup quarterback like the rest,
Yes.
like he is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't think the Riddler's that good. And he just doesn't have much, like, not Desmond Ritter, but I don't think that there's just a lot to work with in that quarterback room. He's just stuck. Like, the game plan is it should be get the ball to Bijan Robinson a bunch of times, try and throw the ball when you can, but it's just a really simple game plan, and they just don't have a lot of options.
I'm with you. Next game, Bucks, Colts. I'll say it right away. I like the Bucks outright in this spot.
Where is this game at? At the Colts.
Indianapolis.
Who did the Bucks play last week? Were they on a bye?
No, they played somebody. I forget who, though.
They did play somebody, that's for sure. They played the Niners, and they lost 27-14.
But
yeah,
they were sneaky in that game. Like, there was a spot where they were going to make that game 21 to 27. Like, they were driving down, like, about to do that.
And then what, did Baker throw a pick?
I can't remember.
He only had one pick. Yeah, I don't really have a good feel for this game. I just think that Baker Mayfield and the Bucks are just, like, so up and down. Like, they can fight and be in a game here and there. And then I don't really think the Colts are anything great either. Like, who knows what you're going to get from Gardner Minshew on any given day. Like, he could go out there and play, like, elite level football, or he could just go out there and completely shit the bed. I think 2.5 is probably fair. I kind of like the over in this game. I don't really have a pick for this. I don't really know who I like at this point in the game. Also, the Colts released Darius Leonard today. Feel like that should have been.
Who's Darius Leonard?
Linebacker.
Shaquille Leonard?
His real name is Darius.
It's Shaquille.
Who's Darius Leonard?
Don't know.
Who am I thinking of?
His name is Shaquille Leonard. And yeah, he used to be an All-Pro. He's washed. He doesn't play.
Wait a minute.
He hasn't played at all this year.
It's Darius Leonard.
It's Shaquille.
It's Darius Shaquille Leonard.
He goes by Shaquille.
Yeah, but his name is still Darius.
Look.
It says Darius Shaquille Leonard.
Look.
I know it says Shaq there. We're both right.
Look. Look. Do you see? Do you see?
Do you see?
But it comes up. His name's Shaquille.
So does mine.
Anyway, I don't think that is newsworthy. A newsworthy situation for him to, like, okay, he's gone. He wasn't playing for them anyway, so whatever. I don't think that matters at all. There's a reason he got released.
I was gonna say I think it's worth mentioning for me as an Eagles fan who needs help at the linebacker position.
Yeah, fair. Next game, Rams Cardinals. I like the Cardinals. I'll pick the Cardinals every single week because they're my favorite team in the NFL.
I honestly kind of like the Rams here.
Perfect.
But I'm betting on the Cardinals.
I don't think there's much to talk about.
No, I just don't know how the Rams pulled it off last week. There was nothing about them that made sense. I mean, the bookie had to know that Geno Smith was going to get hurt and Kenneth Walker was going to get hurt. That's literally the only way that the Rams could have won that game.
Next game, Broncos, Browns. Man, I think that this is a situation where the Broncos might not cover 2.5, but I think that they could win outright. I love the Broncos right now. I've been betting on them for the last 3 weeks, and it's been paying out for me well. So I'm going to just keep continuing to ride the Broncos and in Denver against the Browns and DTR.
I think the Broncos are just too hot. And I think the
Yeah.
Browns defense is just so good that they're just going to be it, all over Russ. I like the Browns.
A sneaky bet that I think everybody should probably take this week, whether that be Jaleel McLaughlin or Javonte Williams or Samaje Perine, I'd probably lean towards Javonte Williams for his longest rush. The way that the Browns play defense, they give very long rushes up to opposing running backs every single week. So that's probably something that I'll be on this week is Javonte Williams over longest rush. Next
I like
game,
that.
Kansas City Chiefs versus the Raiders. Man, this is probably just a situation where you bet, like I said last week, you bet 9.5, you hold your nose. Um, the I think that the Kansas City defense will match up against this Raiders offense pretty well and make things rough for Aiden O'Connell. So if you think that's going to be the outcome, um, take the Chiefs to kind of dominate this game, but I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs haven't scored in the second half all year, so I'm probably just going to lean that 9.5 towards the Raiders.
Have the Chiefs won a game by 9.5, like
I'm
10
assuming.
points all year?
I'm assuming so.
Uh, they against the Chargers they did, but that's a really bad defense. They already against the Broncos they did. Bears. Yeah, so it looks like they've and against the Cardinal. Oh, that's preseason. Sorry. Yeah, so it looks like they've only covered 9.5 here two times this two times this year. Damn. I just think that the Chiefs are going to bounce back, but that stat of them not scoring in the second half is very alarming. Um, they're gonna have to if they want to cover this, they have to get their work done early or like figure out a way to score the football in the second half. But I don't. I think I'm right there with you with 9.5. I think that's where I would lean to.
Yeah, I think it's a little too high of a line. And you look back last week, the Raiders played the Dolphins, and the spread was 13.5, and it felt like the Dolphins should run away with it. And it was a 6 point game at the end of the day. So like I just like the Raiders to kind of keep it close and probably make the game ugly.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see Max Crosby just wreak havoc back there.
Me too. Next game, Bills at Eagles. Eagles -3.5 is the easiest play on the board. I just don't think the Bills have a snowball's chance in hell against this Eagles team.
Yeah, I think this line's disrespectful. I think this line should be at least like 5.5.
Yeah.
I think 3.5 is rude. I know that the Bills bounced back last week, but that Jets team was bound to crack on defense at some point. There was only so much that they could do for that offense, and I think just them having to be the driving force of that team has taken a toll. It was only going to take a toll on them after a matter of time, and I think we saw that. But I just don't know if the Bills are going to be able to stop the Eagles.
I'm with you. Next game, Ravens Chargers. Great night game. I think a lot of points are scored, but ultimately the Ravens handle business. They're the first seed in the AFC for a reason. They're the real deal. They're the best team in the league. Ravens -3.5.
I actually kind of like the Ravens defense to kind of bottle up the Chargers here. I think they win. I think the Ravens cover.
Okay.
But I think this could be a sneaky under game. I think the Ravens defense could get after the Chargers a little bit, and the Ravens just sort of stick to that run game and then just kind of handle business and just move the ball down the field
It seems like
at a
every
steady
week.
pace.
It seems like every week the Ravens are somehow putting up 30 points.
That is true.
So I'm kind of sitting here thinking like, okay, can the Ravens put up 31 points and can the Chargers score 17? Probably. So that's kind of how I came up with that.
What is the team totals for this game? Do they have them yet or no? Probably not. Ooh, they
Ravens
do.
team total is 24.5 and the Chargers is 21.
Ooh, I like the Ravens team total.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that they put up like 30 every week, you make a good point there.
So yeah, I like them a lot. So
I could see a scenario where the Ravens end up just winning like 31-7.
I hope so. That'd be
They just
electric.
bottle up the Chargers. And
Uh,
then Brandon Staley
gets fired.
gets pushed into the ocean
Ether.
after the game.
Next game. Bears Vikings. Yeah, I like Bears outright in this situation.
All right, we're back. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Bears Vikings. What was the line?
3.5.
Vikings favorite, Bears favorite.
Vikings are favorited by 3.5.
Ooh. This is at Minnesota. I think this game's going to be a battle. Actually, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. I mean, I think after what we saw last week, this game's ultimately just going to come down to like, can the Bears play 4 quarters of football? If they can, I think they win this game outright.
Yeah, I like them outright in this spot for sure.
I like 3.5. I think we're at a point like Josh Dobbs might have a bad game, but I think he's due. I think he's due for one here soon, and I think it could be against this one. I think a lot of people will end up going Vikings in like a bounce back situation and be like, "Oh, Dobbs isn't going to do that. They'll figure it out." I think people are going to go.
I just think no Justin Jefferson. Like, I'm not going to like feel overly confident until they get him back on offense. So yeah, I'm just gonna fade the Vikings right now until they kind of figure out the Justin Jefferson situation, which he'll be back after the bye. So not in 2 weeks he'll be back.
Yeah, I remember hearing them talking about he was like, I'm not going to come back until I feel like my conditioning is up to par. Like, he's healthy right now, like he could play, but he just doesn't have his legs underneath him yet. So I totally understand wanting to give him like a couple more weeks. You said they have a bye next week? Okay,
yeah, they play Monday, then they're on a bye, and then he'll be back. So
yeah, versus the Raiders, then they make the push. They'll have 5 left after that. They have 5 winnable games left. No, they don't. I'm lying. They've got like 3 winnable games. They probably split with the Lions, but
yeah,
the Vikings could make the playoffs.
I think so too. That's all I have for today. On the game wise, but yeah, I mean, I'm Howie Roseman Jr. in fantasy this year. I'm gonna take home $1,200. Nobody can fuck with me on the trade market. I'm 9-2. Everybody else is battling every single week. I'm just a different animal this year. I just acquired after watching speaking on fantasy, after watching the game last night, I know from an Eagles fan standpoint, it's like, holy shit, DeAndre Swift looked great. From a fantasy standpoint, I was like, this guy needs to be off my team tomorrow morning because Jalen Hurts steals entirely too many touchdowns from the 1-yard line. The fact that he scored a touchdown, I kind of got lucky. And from his pass game work, he's pretty much non-existent. They still look to include Kenny Gainwell in that spot. So I traded T. Higgins, which why the fuck would you take T. Higgins right now? Nico Collins, which he's been a decent player, and then DeAndre Swift for Justin Jefferson, who's out this week and a bye week, but I can afford to probably drop a game or two here. And then I already clinched playoffs. And then Rachaad White, who he's been the RB7 on the year. He gets 7 targets a week, and he's like low key been pretty good.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit today, but whoever made that trade with you kind of had to do something if they wanted to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're like on like context. They're like 500, and like Justin Jefferson's sitting on his bench does
Yeah.
nothing for him in these next 3 weeks where he like absolutely it's a must win for him. And for me, I can kind of take on an asset that's like not going to be playing right away.
T. Higgins has had a disappointing year with the injuries, and then on top of Joe Burrow not playing the rest of the year, it's just a bad situation for. I have T. Higgins on a team, and I'm like, well, this sucks because
I'm
there's
right with you.
basically no point of playing him.
Yeah. He's until he like shows something, but I'm right there
Yeah.
with you. That's all I got, brother.
All right, dude. That's all I got for you
Anything
as
else?
well. I think that's it.
I just got to shout out. I just got to shout out our biggest fan, Rosie. That's my one shout out for the day.
Shout out Rosie. Rosie from the barbershop.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not Rosie from the barbershop. All right, brother. Good to see you.
All right, go Birds.
See ya.